Evening, everybody. It's 5:24 on Monday evening, last day of February, and this is your closing comment video number 1169 for Monday evening. Okay, so we had a bit of a rally during the day and into the close. Um, while I'd like to make more of it than it actually is, I'm not as terribly impressed as a lot of people are. This being the last day of the month, there was a great deal of rebalancing in the last 20 or 30 minutes, which will probably get unwound at the open unless there's more good news. Overnight, the futures were really pounded. The Dow Futures I saw down almost 600, 300 in the Nasdaq, 120 in the S&P, and 60 in the Russell. However, in the last half hour of trading, the Dow went from minus 400 to minus only 166.15, which is a half a percent. The Nasdaq actually closed up on the day, up 56.77 or 4/10 of a percent. The S&P closed down 1071. I mean, you have to realize that's a big move from minus 120 to down 100, down $10, or roughly a third of a percent. The Russell also rallied hard, actually closed up on the day at 716, and that was a third of a percent. Transport's up $61.24, or 4/10 of a percent. The VIX closed 3015, up 256 or 9.8%, but well off its high of 3351. That's a measure of volatility and bearishness, and we did spike up last week before coming back in to close actually down on the week. But I generally don't like to see the VIX up on a day where there's a rally. Just my own preference. As far as the advanced declines, we were 16 to 15 down on the NYSE. We were almost exactly 1-to-1 on the NASDAQ. And volume was 5.7 billion. That's not as big as the 6.1 from Friday of last week, but it is well above, almost 30% above the 4.2 billion that we've been seeing. As far as the Dow stocks go, they were 2-to-1 to the downside. On the downside was led by Goldman Sachs pairing 58 Dow points, JP Morgan 41, McDonald's 22, Visa 21. On the upside, we had Boeing adding 25 Dow points, CVX, Chevron adding 24, and CRM, Salesforce, adding 16. We also had the bonds up 2.75 on a flight to safety play, not only here but across the world. And we had a move down of 15 basis points, which is a huge move in a day, also flight to safety, on the 10-year, which closed at last week's low, 184, down 15 basis points. So the news was kicking Russia out of the SWIFT system. They raised interest rates, their key rate, from 9.5% to 20%, and that just crushed the ruble. The ruble last week was, I want to say it was down it was about 132, so 1.32 cents. It closed today under a penny, 0.008. It had actually been down to 0.0074. So, think about that. Think about what would happen if the dollar went down 40% in buying power, and that's what you have. The Moscow Stock Exchange was closed today. It will be closed tomorrow again. Corporate news, I mentioned this morning. BP selling their position in Rosneft. Um, they paid 14 billion for it. Looks like they're going to take a $25 billion loss. I don't understand how that happens, but those are the numbers they published. The stock had closed on Friday 30.73, closed today 29.21, down $1.52, 5.1%. REGI, which is renewable energy, bought by uh, CVX for 33.15 billion. So CVX is buying this company at a 40% premium, and REGI is in the biofuel business. So that's part of the step towards being greener. REGI 61.31, up 17.5, or 39.95%. The deal was a 40% premium, so it's right there. As far as CVX, it opened this morning early. It was down about $2, but with the rally in the oil and people understanding this deal a little better, it actually closed 144.03, up 365. So a nice reversal there, closing up 2.6%. RSX, that is the Russian market ETF. Now, most of these stocks are not trading. There were a couple of them that trade in London. Most of them were down 60 to 75%. RSX was $23 on the end of last week, closed today 1088 with a low of 1074, and that was a decline of $4.72, or 30%. Ambarella earnings this afternoon beat both top and bottom line. Um, they were just in line with expectations. The stock had closed 139.71. Last trade, it traded down to 110. Last trade is 112.98. That's down 26.87, or a solid 20%. And Good RX also reported, but they reported a miss. Top line, bottom line, and gave poor guidance. The stock had closed 27.40. The low has been, and it's still trading, but the low has been 18.19, and that's down hard. Last is 1993, down 646, or 24%. The oil traded as high as 99.10 overnight, closed the day 95.72, up 13. Gold closed 1900 spot 70, up 13.10. It traded 35 higher than that last night and early this morning, trading as high as 1935. Bitcoin up to 42,000, just short of 3,000. On the upside, actually 28.85, a very strong showing. The dollar 96.69, up 8 ticks. After this morning when I gave it to you, I think it was up in the neighborhood of, well, substantially more. I want to say my recollection is that it was up about 60 cents, so it gave a lot of that back as the day wore on and rates continued to fall. So there you have it. I did a little bit of liquidating today. We took some more profits in TJX, a little bit of profit off the table in Paramount, um, but I used the highest price Paramount uh, as a match to today's sales. So even though it closed $1.58, our cost basis now is close to 65 cents as opposed to the dollar and a quarter that we initially paid for the first part of the position. All right, everyone. I'll be back first thing in the morning. Be careful out there. I keep on warning you. This is a tough market. And as nice as that rally went, I have the feeling that it was more evening up on the last day of the month than any kind of bona fide rally on any kind of news. And the news that I've heard over, since the market closed, that Putin the thug is getting ready to have a pretty major push with armored vehicles and tanks into Kiev. By the way, the grains limit up in the corn um, within three quarters of between a half a dollar to limit up in the wheat, 62 cents in the winter wheat, the spring wheat up 34 cents, oats up. So, you have to remember that this part of Russia and the Ukraine really amount to a great contributor to the world in the grain market. About a third of the world's grain comes from there. So, uh, not surprising to see this kind of a move. Have a good evening. I'll be back first thing in the morning.